וזמרת ים, ויהי לי לישועה. עוזי וזמרת ים, ויהי לי לישועה.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Central Synagogue. We want to welcome all of us who are here in the sanctuary and all of you who are joining us as part of our virtual community and our neighbors as well. We give you a wave. And we are just delighted to be entering into this sacred time together. I'm Rabbi Ari Lorge. I'm joined by my colleagues, Rabbi Dan Ross, Rabbi Nicole Auerbach, our senior rabbi, Angela Buchdahl, and our senior cantor, Dan Mutlu. We're also joined on the bima by our synagogue president, Dr. Shani Silverberg, and also by wonderful members and leaders of our congregation, Susan Saltstein and Stephen Fallick. We also are joined in the congregation tonight by Cantor Richard Cohn, the director of the School for Sacred Music, and we're delighted to have him in our kahal and part of the congregation. And there's someone else.
I'm wondering, is Rabbi Sam Stahl here? Oh, yay. So I just want to say a word because this is a really special moment for me. When my father was in South Korea, in Seoul, in the 1960s, and he was wanting to marry my mother, he thought he really needed to consult with a rabbi. So he met Rabbi Sam Stahl, 1965, I think it was, and went to the army base where he was the army chaplain and brought my mother with him. And Rabbi Sam Stahl was the first rabbi that my mother ever met and only the second Jew she'd ever met in her life. And I was deeply grateful that I don't know what you said to them, but they left that meeting thinking that they would be all right, that they could get married. And that was a pretty extraordinary stance to take as a rabbi in the 1960s. And so it is a privilege that Rabbi Stahl went on to have a distinguished career in San Antonio, Texas for many, many years. And now we are really blessed that he and his wife Lynn are part of our live stream community and are joining us tonight for the first time at Central Synagogue. So I want to say, I don't even know that if I would exist if it weren't for you. So I say thank you and Shabbat Shalom and welcome.
All of us say thank you. Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, when trying to remind us of the need for Shabbat, taught that an artist can't continually wield their brush. From time to time, an artist has to stop and renew the vision of what it is they're trying to create on the canvas. And Rabbi Kaplan then said, that's what we need too. Life is an art, and from time to time, we have to stop our activity. And we have to remind ourselves of the vision of the world we're trying to create and who we want to be in that world. And for us, that is the purpose of Shabbat, a time to stop and a time to remember what it is we're trying to build so busily the other 6 days of the week. So we'll enter into that time together. Apparently, Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan didn't know that we'd have cell phones, but I don't think he included them on Shabbat. So if you have one, turn it off. Make sure it's not going to take us out of this opportunity to reflect and remember. While you do that, we want to lift up gratitude to our musicians. We want to thank our shamashim who have been greeting us as we come in. And we want to prepare to enter into Shabbat, adding in light and joy and warmth. And so it is an honor to call up Elena Marin, Riva Ginsburg, Samuel Karsh, and Phoebe Karsh to help us kindle our Shabbat lights.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
We continue with the Psalms of Kabbalah Shabbat, L'chu Neranena, which you can find on your order of service.
L'chu Neranena l'Adonai Sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice.
Let us sing to God a new song, Shir L'Adonai, Psalm 96.
Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Sapru v'goyim kevodo,
V'chol ha'amim niflotav.
גדול אדוני ומעולה לאור
נורא הוא הכל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, עשו מיום ליום ישועתו.
כי כל אלוהי העמים אלילים
ואדוני שמיים עשה.
עוד והדה לפניו
עוז ותפארת במקדשו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, עשו מיום ליום ישועתו.
ישמחו השמיים
ותגן הארץ.
עירם הים ומלואו
יאללה שדי וכל אשר בו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, עשו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, עשו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, עשו מיום ליום ישועתו.
We turn to our Sidurim, to our prayer books, to page 20 for Lecha Dodi. We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. On the 9th and final verse, we'll invite you to rise to face the entrance so that we can greet Shabbat.
Lecha Dodi. Oops, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just having a moment here.
That's it. That is it.
It is. Lecha Dodi. Sorry, guys. Likrat kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha Dodi. Likrat kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela. Shamor v'zachor
Shamor v'zachor
b'diburecha
בדיבורך
השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ותפארת בלי תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי התעוררי
עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת
I hope you can all hear each other sing the way we could hear you sing from up here,
It's
because it sounds
beautiful.
beautiful. We're going to move ahead to page 146, continuing to raise our voices and calling each other to worship with our Baruch Hu. We'll remain standing.
Yai lai 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 ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. יאי לי 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 לי
Please be seated. We continue reading together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו בורא יום ולילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור
הוא מעביר יום ומביא לילה הוא מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המרים ערבי.
As we prepare for Shema, I'll share the words of Rabbi Harold Kushner, not found in your prayer book. He taught, a loving parent does not show genuine love by telling a child, do whatever you want. That would not indicate love, but a lack of concern and an abdication of responsibility. The truly loving parent says to the child, I care very much about you, and although I cannot live your life for you, I want you to have the benefit of my experience. The Jew understood from the beginning that Judaism was a religion of love because it did not leave us to find the way through life alone and unaided. And so as we thank God for this Torah of love, we say together at the bottom of page 148,
Baruch atah Adonai Ohel Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 152, 152 for Micha Mocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא. Like you, who is like you, who is like you, Adonai, who is like you, who is like you, who is like you, Adonai. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זה אלינו אנו באמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you?
On page 153, we ask God to spread a sheltering presence over us and all of the world.
השכיבנו, השכיבנו, אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום.
השכיבנו השכיבנו, אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום. בהעמידנו מלכנו לחיים ולשלום, ולשלום. השכיבנו, השכיבנו, אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. השכיבנו, אדוני, אלוהינו. השכיבנו, אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום. אדוני,
Tefillah begins on page 155. Please rise.
Adonai svatai tiftach, Adonai svatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai svatai tiftach, Adonai svatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayim Eitim, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv Haruach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim, Tzomech Noflim Verofei Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue now silently, either through the rest of the tefillah, which goes through page 167, or offering up the prayers of our own hearts. You may remain standing or be seated.
We all live on our own mountain, our own mountain so high. We all live on our own mountain, our own mountain so high.
From my mountain to your mountain, to my mountain so high. From my mountain to your mountain, to my mountain so high. I'm calling you.
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 I'm calling you. I'm calling you.
We all live on our own mountain.
I'm calling you.
Our own mountain so high.
I'm calling you.
calling you.
In this week's Torah portion, Hayesara, we meet our matriarch, Rebecca, at a well. And in this scene, she greets Abraham's servant Eliezer after a long journey and famously offers to fetch water not just for him, but for his camels as well. Rebecca's act of loving kindness serves as an example for our people to this day. At this time, our thoughts turn to those members of our community who are traveling on a long journey of pain and illness. And like Rebecca, this Shabbat we meet them at the well, prepared to offer them and their loved ones prayers for healing while their own lips are parched. This evening, the Central Synagogue community is praying for a refuah shlema, for a complete healing of Kathy Barron, Chanalea Bat Sarah, Eileen Berger, Simcha Ben Sarah, Donald Brief, Jerry Calderon, Lou Chen, Monica Corton, Frank Elbling, Corey Flom, Sander Flom, Jerry Friedman, Mickey Granick, Howard Hochberg, Eileen Humber, Alexandra James and the James family, Barbara Johnson, Melissa Kaufman, Samuel Kirsch, Erwin Merkatz, Cordelia Miras, Joan Mouton, Edith Nazanitsky, Kurt Pliskin, Panina Bat Mordechai Virachel, Marty Reingold, Sandy Shupper, Candace Smilo, Bill Smith, Ann Stutchner, Elizabeth Ward, Bonnie Wolpe, Pam Young, and Richard Zorn. We offer them our prayers.
Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy.
And we also know that there are wells of blessing in this room tonight. And so if I identify one of those reasons you might be celebrating this week, this Shabbat, I'm going to invite you to rise and remain standing. So first and foremost, if you are becoming B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow, Owen and Casey and your families, I invite you to rise at this time. If you are celebrating, everybody's celebrating with our B'nai Mitzvah, y'all all right, yeah. If you are celebrating a birthday or an anniversary, we invite you to rise. If you welcomed someone new into your family this week via wedding or birth or adoption or in any other way, we invite you to rise. So today is National Oatmeal Day. I had my oatmeal for breakfast. So if you had oatmeal for breakfast, or if you enjoy having oatmeal for breakfast, especially when it gets colder, I invite you to rise. Yeah, oatmeal fans, great. It's awesome. If you are looking forward to celebrating Halloween, please rise. Or if you're just glad to celebrate Shabbat with us, please rise as we join in our blessing of gratitude.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו בזמן
Let me tell you a story. There once was a mother named Sarah who had one beloved son. One morning, she awoke to find that her son had gone missing along with his father. For 3 days, she waited for word, not knowing what had become of him. And then, one night, she had a vision. Her son appeared before her. He said, "My father led me over mountains and through valleys until we finally reached the top of a mountain. And there he erected an altar and collected firewood and bound me to the altar and raised the knife. And if God had not stopped his hand, I would have died." Upon hearing these words, Sarah let out a wail, and then, heartbroken, she died. It is said that we can still hear her cry in the sound of the shofar. This week's Torah portion is called Hayesara, the life of Sarah, but it actually begins with her death. In the Torah text itself, we never learn how Sarah took in Isaac's near-death experience. But because the recounting of her death follows directly after the binding of Isaac, our sages suggest that the two events are connected. By filling in Sarah's story, our ancient rabbis allowed us to hear a voice that would otherwise have been silenced, the voice of a mother for whom even the near loss of her son was too much to bear. Let me tell you another story. One day, a mother named Tamara called her son Brandon, wondering where he was. For 2 days she waited and then learned that he had been taken and led across the river to an island. If he had had enough money, he could have left, but he didn't, and so he stayed. It was dangerous there, he said. And then on the 6th day, Tamara received a message from an acquaintance on Facebook and learned that her son was dead. She called out, trying to learn what had happened, asking over and over, "Listen, I was told my son passed away. All I want to know is he still there?" Her cries went unanswered. "First and foremost, I want to know how my son passed away, where he was," she says. "It's not going to bring him back, but I want to know." And finally, there is another mother. We don't know her name. She works on that same island where Brandon died, and she has a son too. And every day she goes to work for 8 hours or maybe 16 or maybe 24, she's never quite sure, afraid that she may not return to her son who needs her. She can't carry a phone at work, and so there is no way for her son to reach her if something goes wrong. She holds her breath all day, hoping both of them survive. This island is real, and it's not very far from here. It's about half an hour away, just over in Queens, and yet it's mostly forgotten. Although 13 sons have died there in the past year, most of us close our ears to their cries and those of the mothers who wait in vain for them to come home. This island, Rikers Island, is built mostly on landfill, and it is now where we discard people, keeping them out of sight and out of mind so that we can go about our lives. Rabbi Haber and I traveled to Rikers Island this week with our faith partners from Trinity Church Wall Street and Episcopal Charities and our partner John Ducksworth from EMI New York. We went to hear the stories of the people who live and work there. Rikers is currently housing 6,000 of our neighbors. Nearly half suffer from mental illness. At least 1,000 are seriously mentally ill and in crisis. Rikers was designed to be a short-term holding facility for people awaiting trial. It's not equipped as a long-term prison nor as a mental health facility, and yet more and more mentally ill people are sent there. And because of COVID, court dates are few and far between, so the numbers keep growing. Hundreds have been there for more than a year. When we visited, we found buildings that were literally falling apart. We walked over crumbling floors that were stripped of their linoleum and learned that a major source of the makeshift weapons that are commonplace on the island is the broken pieces of the buildings themselves. We spoke both with the men who were being held there and those who guard them, and what was striking was the unanimity of the message we heard. From detainees in the mental observation units to the official who is second in charge of the island, everyone agrees that the island is caught in an irredeemable, vicious cycle. Due in part to COVID, there are not enough officers to provide safety or basic services like escorting men to the doctor or allowing them access to the yard. This has led to a spike in violence against both detainees and officers, and this in turn has led more officers to refuse to come to work. There are areas where the doors don't lock properly and where officers have stopped searching for weapons. The officers we spoke to insisted, "We need to get these men off the island. They don't belong here. They need to be in community receiving mental health services. This is not the place for people to be held for this long." And as for the officers themselves, like the mother whose story I told, they say, "We never know how long we'll be working, which makes it impossible to care for our families. We're exhausted." And the men detained there will tell you, "We know there aren't enough officers. We know they can't do their jobs, but we can't get medical care or access to showers or visits with our families or hot water to cook our food. We can't get in front of the court to plead our case. And without officers to keep order, the violence is out of control. We are desperate." I asked one corrections official what I should say tonight. And he said, "This island needs love. We need you to remind people that we are here. The men who are here are forgotten. The staff is forgotten. This is a place where everyone is hurting. We need to get everyone who lives and works here the care they need so they can heal." He called on the faith community to shine light and love on an island that has little of either. In the Talmud, we read, "When the community is immersed in suffering, no one should say, 'I will go home and I will eat, drink, and be at peace with myself.' Our community is immersed in suffering. We can hear the shofar blast of their cries echoing across the city if only we open our ears and hearts. Our tradition teaches us that we should care for the sick, whether they are Jewish or not, for the sake of bringing peace to the world. It teaches us not to stand idly by the blood of our neighbors. It teaches that we are all made in God's image. Having seen what we've seen, to turn our backs and say we will go home and eat and drink and be at peace would be a desecration of God's name. In the days and weeks and years to come, may we as a community have the courage to not turn away. May we have the strength to work towards a day when those whose lives have been put in our hands are treated with care and dignity. And when mothers will no longer wonder whether they will ever again hear the voices of their sons. Shabbat Shalom.
I want to thank you, Rabbi Auerbach, for you and Rabbi Haber for bearing witness and for so powerfully sharing it with us. We rise together and look to a future in which, God willing, we can be at peace. Page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשם כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורל
Please be seated. Along with the personal deaths that we will think of this week, as a community, we mark the 3rd year anniversary of the Tree of Life shooting in Pittsburgh. I think at that time, we all believed it was the derangement of a lone wolf actor. But sadly, in the last 3 years, we've come to see an increase in these kinds of hateful anti-Semitic actions, and they've become more organized. We can honor the memory of those who were lost by fighting against that hatred and bigotry and violence. And we can honor them as well by uplifting the things that they valued and lived for in their own lives: tradition, community, honor, and service of others. We remember Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil and David Rosenthal, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. And we name civilians who were killed in mass shootings just this week. I'm just going to name a few of the very long list this week: Henry Boyer, Maria Nunez, Raymond Williams, Tyler French. There are no deaths from our armed services to report. And the losses in our own community, people we love whom death has taken in recent days: June Clayman, mother of Liz, Daniel, Holly, and Shoshana; Marilyn Glick Glosserman, wife of Michael, mother of Mark and Scott, sister of Howard; Muriel Klarsfeld, mother of Barbara and Cheryl; Everett Lawton, husband of Susan Levine, brother of Robert, Jeffrey, and Andrew; Bernard Roy, father of Dylan; Betsy Plevin, wife of Kenneth, mother of Rabbi Bill Plevin, brother of Stephen Barish; and Stuart Wilsker. We add to that list the names of those whose yahrzeit occur at this season from our community: Victor Alchek, Madeline Baer, Phyllis Skloot-Lamberger, Elihu Burke, Benjamin Birnbaum, Gladys Bordoff, Robert Brodsky, Leon Brown, Dorothy Cashman, Sidney Cassell, Karen Chanowitz, Charles Cole, Robert Davidoff, Joyce Diamond, Florence Ditzian, Benjamin Einhorn, Sadie Eisenstein, Albert Eschen, Bernice Fengel, Max Fernbach, Mildred Goldberg, Mortimer Goldman, H. Herbert Harris, Alfred Hart, Ronald Hecker, Cynthia Heyer, Josephine Hirsch, Israel Ilan, Denise James, Lillian Clevens, Gordon Kuda, Irving Korn, Seymour Krinsky, Robert Levy, Mo Lewis, Melvin Lippman, Josephine Magliocco, Sidney Marcus, Henrietta Marvin, Esther Miffaluff, Teresa Mitchell, Max Mosner, Donald Pasick, Irving Reif, Shirley Rhodes, Coralie Richards, Pauline Rosenzweig, Alexander Ross, Harry Rother, Nancy Rubin, Jim Runsdorf, John Sachs, Shulam Schneider, Ann Schoolman, Melvin Smith, Sadie Summers, Barbara Steinberg, Anna Sternman, Lynn Sturman, Carol Strauss, Yale Topper, Leon Weinstein, David Werther, Eva Witkoff, Danny Zorn, Mayor Zuckerberg, Ann Zwerling. and those we might name in the quiet of our own hearts. If you are in Shiva, the first 7 days of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise. If you're in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise. If you're in the first year of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise. And if you're observing a yahrzeit this evening for a loved one, please rise. May the memory of your loved ones be an abiding blessing. We rise with you as one community of fellowship and comfort as we join in Kadisha Tome on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Ve'himeru amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My name is Eli Dubin Ramos, and I am a student in this year's confirmation class at Central Synagogue. We are so thrilled to see many of you back in our sanctuary. As always, you can watch our services virtually through our live stream, Facebook Live, YouTube channel, and local JBS station. We hope you will attend our Mishkan service tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. here in our main sanctuary and via live stream as well. Proof of vaccination will be required, as well as wearing a mask. For a wide range of upcoming programs, events, and classes, please visit our Central Synagogue website. Mazel Tov to our B'nai Mitzvah, Casey Karsh and Owen Traugett. Please join us on stage for the Dibima to help us lead the Kiddush and Motzi blessing. The Kiddush can be found on page 5 of your book.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
So we get a little peek at your faces too. It's nice. We'll join Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. We will close with a Song of Peace, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu.
Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.